We're talking today with Jim Oudman of Caledonia, Michigan, and the interviewer is James Smither of the Grand Valley State University Veterans History Project. Jim, start us off with some background on yourself, and to begin with, where and when were you born?
Where is Palo Alto, California? When is 7/28/43, and that was a few years ago.
Okay.
But I was too young to say I wanted to stay there, and my folks hauled me back to Michigan.
Okay. Why had they been in California in the first place?
My dad was in the service, and they stationed him out there, so therefore my mom followed him out, and I was born out there, and that's how it went. Okay. But their roots and their parents are here in Michigan.
Okay. Now, did he go overseas after you were born, or was he already overseas when you were born?
No, he went overseas before I was born.
Okay.
And then after I was born, he was stationed in California.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. So when did the family move back to Michigan?
About a year after, about 1944, 45, somewhere around there.
All right. And then once you were back in Michigan, what did your family do for a living?
Oh, my dad was into woodworking all his life. He was working at a lumber company, and then he got into home repairs and custom cabinetry, and he was in custom cabinetry till he passed.
Okay. And did he pass along any of his skills to you? Or?
Oh, yeah, yeah. Kind of miss the smell of wood. But yes, my brother and I, my brother's 8 years younger than I am, but we both had our what do you call it, education in woodworking. Mm-hmm. And he's still into it. My brother is into wood carving now, and he carves for a lot of people.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And did you finish high school?
Yes, I did.
What year did you graduate?
62.
Okay. And then what did you do after you were out of school?
I first took on a job, and then after that, I was with two of my fellow friends, and one of them was going to be drafted. So we decided, let's stick together and at least take basic together. So we did, and the other two of us volunteered for the draft.
Okay, so that's a distinct status. You still count as a draftee. Is there an advantage to you for that?
No.
Okay.
Actually, a disadvantage.
Do you get a shorter enlistment time?
Nope.
Okay, so at that point you could have enlisted.
It was a 2-year draft.
Okay, but could if you were enlisting into the regular Army, would you have had to stay longer?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So there was that. So all you're really doing is controlling the time when you go in.
Right. When you enlist, it's 3 or 4 years. Mm-hmm. But when you're drafted, it was a 2-year draft at that point.
Okay. And when you volunteer for the draft, you still have the draftee status.
Correct.
Right. Okay. So one of you is going to go, so let's all go together. So when was it then that you wound up signing up?
It's 62, 63.
I think in talking beforehand,
60.
we figured it's probably 64.
64.
Yeah,
that's
because you were there, because you're in Vietnam into 65, 66.
65, 66, yes.
So we thought it was the fall of 64, I think, is what we figured out. Okay. Where did you go for basic training?
Fort Knox, Kentucky.
Okay. And what was that like?
That was, you had a lot of tanks there. I visited there about a year ago, and they had no tanks there. Mm-hmm. But they had a lot of tanks there, and we were loading them. We were having them fire 90 millimeters, probably about 10 feet from us. And that's not too good for the ears. It's still ringing. But yeah, that's what I did over there.
Well, was that normally basic training includes other kinds of stuff?
Yeah.
Drill, marching, conditioning, that kind of thing.
We did marching the first couple days. Well, actually, the first time we started on the march, we were doing PT, physical training, and we were doing marching and so on. And this was before we ate breakfast. Mm-hmm. And we were getting hungry, and it was getting on toward noon, and we got in there, and we got our meal in the mess hall, and before we could take a bite, okay, up and out, everybody up and out. We had to leave all that food there, And then we trained the rest of the day. So the next time we got to the mess hall, we just scarfed it down really quick. I don't think I lost that habit. Yeah.
Now, how much emphasis was there on discipline?
Well, a lot. There was a lot of emphasis. You know, you just have to watch your step, and you have to do what they say. And it wasn't hard. It was just a matter of following protocol. Yeah.
Now, is that something you were accustomed to doing?
Before
Yeah.
I got in? No.
Okay.
No. I learned a little bit in the service. It kind of straightened me out a little bit.
Now, what would happen if you messed up or didn't do things the way they wanted you to do them?
Well, you'd be put on either a guard duty, or you'd be put on KP or some other type of a punishment. They didn't whip you or anything. It just you lost your leave time. It's just things like that.
Now, how long was the basic training at that point?
Basic training was 8 weeks.
Okay. And then during that time, I mean, how much time did you actually spend with the tanks as opposed to the regular drill activity?
Oh, well, we as far as the tanks goes, that was all the way through.
Okay.
But in between that, we went to the rifle range, and we had the M14 at that point. And we hiked and so on.
Okay. Now, at this point in time, had you been paying much attention to news in the world? I mean, we didn't have ground troops in Vietnam yet, but there was stuff going on in Vietnam. There was Cold War going on. Were you looking at this with the prospect of getting into a war someplace, or was it just stuff you were doing?
At that point, we could have ended up anywhere, and we were hoping for the best. And during the basic training, we did not follow the news that close. It's just on advanced training. After we got out of basic, then we went to AIT, which is advanced training. And that's where I joined a rifle team. And, well, let me back up a little bit. I was out there on a hot day with the rest of the guys doing PT, sweating, all that, and I saw a few guys go past us that was from our company, and I was wondering, why aren't they there? So the curiosity got the best of it. So I went up to them after my training, and I said, what's going on? They said, they're on a rifle team. Well, I kind of lit up because I was shooting since I was 7. Loved it. And I said, can I try out for it? He said, yeah, you see the light colonel over there, lieutenant colonel. And I talked to him, and he said, yeah, you can try it out. So I did. They gave me a rifle and ammo and so on, and I shot with the team. And I asked him if I qualified, and he said, yeah, you outshot all of us. So from then on, I was on a rifle team, and we were going to different shoots and so on.
All right. Now, that was at your AIT station, though?
That was at the AIT.
Okay. So you finished basic. Now, where did you go for AIT?
Fort Story, Virginia.
And where in Virginia is that? Is it near anything?
Yeah, it was near the West Coast, or the East Coast, I mean.
Okay.
It was near, there was gosh, what was that? I think there was a town called Fort Story also.
Okay.
There, and that was just south of us. And I visited there a couple of years ago, and that changed completely. Yep.
Yeah, well, a lot of that area, kind of Tidewater, Virginia, has become retirement central for a lot of people. And
oh, yeah.
A lot of stuff, the Williamsburg and all that stuff built up down there.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So you go there, and then what was the specialization that you were training for?
I was training for truck driving and driver and stevedore and stuff like that. But we always had that availability that we could be pushed into the infantry anytime. And because I was shooting and on a rifle team and so on, I got my first stripe that way because I was pretty good. But the thing is, I heard that on the grapevine we were going to go to Vietnam. And then after that, they came up to me and said, Jim, how would you like to go to sniper school? I would have loved it if it was peacetime. And but it wasn't. And I knew that I was going to go to Vietnam, so I'm putting two and two together. And I don't like the idea of a couple of companies of VC looking for me out in the sticks. So I turned them down. But that's how it was there.
All right. Now, at this point, are you assigned to a specific unit, or are you just...
Yes.
Okay, so what unit were you part of?
565th Transportation.
Okay. And what kind of vehicles or equipment did they have?
Well, they had everything from Jeeps to 10-ton trucks and semis. But we got into driving tankers and Jeeps and quarter and three-quarter and half-ton and deuce and a halfs.
Right.
And,
Okay, so you've got kind of the full range of military transport.
And
there.
it's all sticks. It's all stick shift. None of this here automatic.
Yep.
Yep.
And not as rare in the 60s as it is now.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. So when did you actually go to Vietnam?
65
Okay.
and 66. That was the longest year of my life.
Right. Now, when in 1965 did you go over? What time of year? Or?
It was, gosh, when was that? March, April, May. I think it was October, I believe it was.
Okay. So the Marines had started to land in March, and Army units were going in from May onward. But okay, I guess, now when you got the orders for Vietnam, did you get a leave to go home first?
No.
Okay, so just load up and go.
That's it.
All right. And then how did they get you to Vietnam?
They got me. A lot of people flew, but I took a troop ship, USS Breckinridge, and we left Oakland, and we were like sardines. We had Army, Navy, and Marines on, and we also, the Army was, they designated. First of all, it took 21 days to get over there, and they designated us jobs on there. So many are going to have KP for 21 days, and so many are going to have guard duty and so on. And I ended up with guard duty on that. And when we left, we went underneath the Golden Gate. That's a memory. Then we went to the Philippines, and we went to Hawaii. Couldn't get off at Hawaii. They just wouldn't let us for some reason, probably because of AWOLs. So we got over there to off the coast of Vietnam, and I had to pull guard 4 hours on, 4 hours off for 21 days. And when I was out there at night and we were along the coast, I could see napalm and tracers and explosions and so on. I thought, boy, I'm glad I'm not going there. And the next morning, the Marines had to take off. Some of the Marines had to go take off there. We did the Normandy type landing, or they did, with a rope ladder going down or the net ladder into the waiting LSTs, and then they landed and dropped them off. But then we had another batch of Marines going off, and there again, that night it was explosions and so on, the same thing. And then it was our turn next. And guess what I saw the night before? Explosions, tracers, rocks, all that stuff going off. And we were going off the next day. Well, as we were going down the rope ladder, we happened to see a chopper go over. It's a Huey. And we saw black smoke coming from him. We thought, geez, he was hit. But it wasn't. We looked closer, and it was the rockets, the rocket exhausts that they were shooting. And so we were all greenhorns. We didn't know what was going on there.
Now, were you in one of those kind of small open-top landing craft?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right.
But let me back up 1 minute. We had to train our guns on anything that flotsam that came by or sampans that came by. You just don't know what's going on. And we were on deck at night, and this chopper, this Huey, came along and hovered probably about, I'd say 80 yards from us. And we were wondering, what is this, enemy or friendly or what? And then all of a sudden they landed shined a spotlight on us. And I was ready to take my rifle and shoot that thing out. But luckily I didn't, because it was friendly, and then they took off. But back to the landing crafts, yeah, it was just like the D-Day type thing.
Okay. And did they tell you what to expect when you got on shore?
No.
Okay.
No, they didn't. All we know is that the perimeter was secure, and there was no firing on that.
Okay.
But when we landed, the guy the driver of that wanted that thing out of there fast. So you're supposed to hit the land and then drop. Well, he was up high enough, and that was clear water. He thought, well, it's only about a foot, you know. So he came up there and he dropped it, and then he was waiting for us to get off. We ran off. We had ammo, we had rifle, we had everything on there, heavier. And when when we saw the water, we thought it was shallow too. No, it was up to our chest, and luckily nobody was firing at us. Because that was hot after we got off of there.
All right. Now, where had you landed?
We landed at Cam Ranh Bay.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what was there when you got there?
Sand. Sand, 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 all over sand. And there was really nothing there. Wasn't any piers there. There was just sand that we got out, we waited, and we got into a deuce and a half, and they hauled us back up in the hills, and that was that.
Okay. Now, was there a camp for you to go into, or did you have to build one?
We had to build one.
Okay.
We had, first of all, it was so hot, we thought, well, we'd like to have some shade. Well, we each carried a tent half. So this other soldier and I put ours together and thought, well, we got some shade. We crawled in there, and it was twice as hot inside than outside, so that didn't work. But
so once you're there, what kinds of things do you start doing?
once we were there, we had to set up camp. We had to start digging and bunkers and filling sandbags for attacks and so on. And then I went down to check out containers, and they had a makeshift motor pool that they put up, and we tacked up a building from scrap wood. Like a 10 by 12 building, or shack, you might say.
Okay. Now, were there any engineer or CB units there that were building anything, or were you just kind of on your own?
They came in about the same time we did, and because of the sand and trying to get a deuce and a half through the sand, you're going to get stuck. So what they did is they took and blasted the mountain and crushed the rock, and then laid it over the sand like a road. That helped, other than those rocks were sharp, and the deuce and a halves, or the Army vehicles, they had hard rubber tires, but this rock just chipped them all to pieces real quick. So it'd be easier running on sand, but you just couldn't get anywhere. They were blasting. Yeah.
Did they eventually try conventional pavement of some kind?
Oh yeah. Now it's but not during when we were
Not,
there.
not when you were there,
No,
so
no.
you just still had the rock.
Right,
Okay.
right.
So what kind of accommodations did you wind up having?
Well, we had pup tents for quite a while, and then we got into squad tents, and those squad tents were 20-man tents, and it was just on the they didn't do the slab of cement until later, but we put them up, and let me skip to the slabs. Once we got the slabs in there, we put them up on those, and we took some boards off of the ships, and we made makeshift wall lockers and foot lockers from them. Make with what you have, and we shoved them against the tent, so the tent top was kind of on those things, and then the wind started to blow, and we didn't think much of it, but overnight the monsoons were coming. That was quite a sight too. I was down there, I was doing some work with my shirt off, and I had my back to the wind, and all of a sudden it felt like somebody snuck behind me with a fan and a block of ice, because I stood up and I thought, what's going on here? And I turned around there, and in Cam Ranh Bay you could look across, because we were firing across there with 105s and 155s, and I could not see across all. I could see a wall of water coming with a rolling cloud, and it just came across there, and you almost had to keep your head down or you'd drown. You have not seen rain until you experience that.
So it's sort of horizontal rain and a solid sheet of it.
Oh yeah.
When
Yeah.
you say look across, it's like look across the harbor itself, or
Yes.
the bay itself. Yeah.
Right, the bay.
Okay, so you can't see what you usually see.
No.
Okay.
That bay was probably about maybe 5 miles across.
All right. Now, how long does it take before you start? Does your job take you off the base to other places?
Yes.
Okay. How soon did you start doing that?
I don't know, probably a few days later.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then what kinds of things are you doing? Are you taking convoys places, or what are you? What were you
Well,
doing?
we're doing convoys into Nha Trang and so on, and I was riding one time, and we had sniper fire all the time, and from here to there, that was paved road, and from here to there was probably about 20 miles to Nha Trang,
yeah.
Nha Trang, and we were getting sniper fire, and so we just, because it was blacktop, we just opened up on that and just kept going. We couldn't go after the VC there, because all they'd have to do is hide it under some hay and grab the rake, and they all looked the same. Yeah.
And did you have problems at that time with IEDs or mines or things
No.
like that? Okay.
Mines, yes. Mines, yes. When we got there, the old French barracks were up yet, and they were being occupied by, I don't know who, but we didn't. And they had barbed wire all around them, and they had skull and crossbone signs on it. Excuse me. And they had mines in there, so you wouldn't want to tippy-toe through there.
Okay. So those are like old leftover mines?
Yeah.
Okay. But it wasn't like the VC were putting mines in the roads
No.
to blow up your trucks yet?
No. No, I guess that mentality didn't hit yet,
Okay.
because they did not do that. Although the Army gave us a book about a 3/4 inch thick of what the VC do for making booby traps. And not only the wood, the punji sticks, and the other stuff. They'll take a rifle shell, one of our rifle shells, and put it on a pin, and pressure will fire it. So that if they sprinkle those around, and if the troops go past there, and if they step on it, it'll send that bullet up their leg. So there you got it. You got a maimed one, they can't fight. So that's one thing. And there's a lot of other ones that that were not so good.
All right. So what was your, I mean, did you have a regular routine there? What were you normally doing day to day, especially once you got more of the stuff built?
Well, I was driving quite a bit, and I was there. I had a lot of jobs. One job was using a tanker truck that they have gasoline in or pour it in, but I went over to the creek, and sucked up the water into the tanker truck and brought it back to our place. And we made showers out of 55-gallon jet fuel drums, and we put a pipe spigot down. They didn't have a shower head or anything. It just straight down like that there. So that when we filled it up, we'd be taking a shower and look down and you see seaweed and fish flipping around. That's what we showered with. So convenience at home.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, would the base actually get attacked at all? Would you get any mortars or rockets or things like that, or was that secure?
That was somewhat secure. The thing is, we were on guard at times, and we pulled guard. At night, of course, day is bad enough. You know, you got brush about 20 feet from you, but at night, you don't know what's going on. Those little critters can sneak up on you. But we had starlight shells, and they float down with the parachutes, and they're moving as they're going down like that. So the shadows are moving on everything, and you're wondering, you know, what is okay and what's not okay. So it was a high tension type, you know.
And while you were there, as far as you know, did the enemy ever actually try to infiltrate the perimeter and get anybody inside?
Not over by us.
Okay.
Not over by us. They, you know, they had Puff the Magic Dragon for that. They on the other ones, but they. When we first got there, we were quite paranoid on everything and afraid of our own shadow almost. Later on, maybe about 3 months later, it's, I don't give a darn. You know, stand up in a firefight, do whatever, you know, just get over there. I decided to take, my buddy that I took basic training with, he's from Holland, and he was stationed at a Hawk missile base, maybe about 7 miles away. And I decided I'm going to take this vehicle and see him. So I got out of my territory, the camp territory, and I took off, and I got over to his place. He just finished guarding the Hawk missile base, and he hit the sack at that point. And I asked where he was, and I got in there and I took his bunk and dipped him out, rolled him out there, and he started cussing up a storm. I said, "John, what's going on?" You know, then we got to talking, but yeah, that was quite interesting. But looking at it in hindsight, there was an unsecured road, and the VC could have been anywhere.
Right.
Snipers could have been anywhere. Bombs could have been anywhere.
So this was off the base perimeter?
This is off the base perimeter.
He's in a different base someplace else. Okay. Because Cam Ranh was a fairly big complex in the end. There were a lot of different parts of it and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Now, did you have any troops on that base who were not American?
Oh, yes. We had ROKs, Republic of Korea.
And what impression did you have of them?
And we had the South Vietnam Army.
Okay, how much did you see of the Koreans?
Well, the Koreans, they were guarding our planes. They were guarding our Phantom jets and so on. And you wouldn't want to argue with them. They are mean rascals. And they are about as tall as we are, too. They're 6 feet. The little Vietnamese are probably about up to our shoulders, if that. But yeah, you don't want to argue with that. Speaking of one job I had of many, I had to mix napalm for the wing tanks for the Phantom jets.
Okay.
And I was mixing it and I was handling it, you know, and I thought, try some. There was a fire over here, maybe about 15 feet away, and I took some and made it like a ball up there, and I threw it through the fire. You know, that's cool. but what it is gasoline and powder. This powder, you just mix it up and it gels right up, and that's what they use for the napalm.
Okay. So why would, I mean, normally the Phantoms, those were Air Force jets, right? I mean, they weren't.
Yeah.
Yes, the Army doesn't have their,
No.
but they've got an Army guy going and mixing up the napalm for them.
Yeah.
Was it just whoever's available?
Right. It's like, we need 3 volunteers. You, and who, me? Yeah, you too. You know, that type. So we mix it up. And my hands got messed up because of it. You know, I got scarred up here. And
That's your microphone again.
yeah.
Probably just.
And that's because of the napalm. And you just never know what you're going to get into, just like Agent Orange and stuff like that. They don't tell you that stuff.
Right.
You come back here, oh, by the way, you know, I'm thinking, you know, they just don't care, I guess.
Yeah. Now, were they using Agent Orange in the area where you were operating?
Oh, yeah. They were.
It's the other side.
Other side. Well, let's just hold on to it.
Okay.
Then I won't talk with my hands.
All right.
But yes, they were using that quite extensively over by us.
Were they trying to defoliate the sides of the roads and things like that?
Well, not only the roads, but the edge of the camps, the edge of the shooting areas, and as much as they could. But they, you know, sprinkled it on us too, and we had showers of that stuff. And we're paying for it now. And I have Agent Orange right now, and I can't feel my legs from my knees on down. So it feels like I'm on prosthetics. And thank you, Agent Orange.
Yeah. All right. Now, to go back again, you were talking. You mentioned there were Koreans. There were also South Vietnamese military around.
Yes.
And what impression did you have of them?
Well, I was a little leery of them, but later on, you just take it for granted. And let me tell you one thing. When I got over there, and about a week later, I thought, you know, I need a shave. So this one place I went to, they just had a makeshift barber up there, but the barber was Vietnamese, and you never know who's good and who's bad. And they used a straight razor. All it would take is one little slip. And I was thinking, if it happens, it happens. But he didn't do it, so.
Now, what kinds of things did they have Vietnamese civilians doing on the base?
Selling water, selling pop. We used to get Pepsi for, I think it was a nickel back when they were selling it for 50 cents, so we thought it's a ripoff. And they even had it cold with ice. But you have to be leery of it, and you have to, if you take a swig, you better chew on it, because what the VC will do is the same thing, but they'll put in that Pepsi or whatever, they'll put crushed or ground glass in. And once you drink that, you might as well sit down and wait, because you won't survive it. It's working through your system, and it'll kill you.
Yeah. Did you ever actually know of incidents where that happened, or was that just something you heard about?
No, it happened. I was also, when I was down by where they were fixing trucks and stuff, one guy was filling a tire. It's supposed to be in a cage to fill it, a wire cage. But he was leaning over it and he was filling it, and that split ring popped off and took half his head off.
Wow.
Yeah, so something else.
All right. Now, when you were going off the base, I mean, did you just drive to Nha Trang, or did you go other places too?
We went to some other places too, but mainly it was Nha Trang. We went across the float bridge that the Army built across the river, and then when we were coming back, we from Nha Trang, we hit a kid on a bike. He came across, he didn't stop, so wham, we got him with a deuce and a half. Well, we stopped for about 5 minutes to see what was what, and of course we killed him, and then we took off again. But there's things like that that happen all the time. I've seen some, just like what they eat over there is something else. I'd like to back up to that ship again, the Breckinridge.
Right.
We did not have any Dramamine or anything like that. So, and it was not exactly the smoothest. And when we got out of there on the ocean and started hitting the waves, I got kind of feeling queasy. And it was a 5-deck ship. I was on the middle deck. I was on the 3rd deck. And I just got off a guard, and I was in there, and we were swinging back and forth. Everything was swinging. I thought, we got to get out of here. So before something happens, I knew that if I went upstairs, I'd be fighting gravity. And I knew there was a head downstairs, which is a bathroom. And I decided to let gravity take over. So I went down there, sailed down there, just about jumped down there. And I was running toward the head, and I ran past the sergeant. And I didn't think anything of it, but I went by the head there, and there was 2 guards there, and they blocked me. I was going to go through them like a linebacker, but weighing 175 pounds, that didn't help. But they stopped me, and I yelled back to the sergeant. I said, "Sarge, you want me to do it right here?" And he said, let him in, you know, so we got him. And I had to take care of problems. But after that, I got up and looked around, and there was a full bird colonel and a major, I think, was in there. They were inspecting. I'm sorry, sir. And I got out of there. And then when I got on land, I did not have an appetite for a long time. And then after I got back onto my appetite, what it was is sea rations canned in 1941. That's World War II surplus.
Right.
And of course, I had that P-38, which is a can opener. And I still have one in my wallet. There's a lot of guys that'll have them in a wallet. And if you use it for a year, you get used to it. I use it for camping. I use it for out to the beach. I use it for this and that.
Now, did you ever have occasion to try the Vietnamese food, or did it just look scary?
Yeah, I did. I went there. I was hungry. I went into, when I was with R&R over in Nha Trang, I went into a place, a restaurant, and I had some pork. That's about it. It wasn't too bad, but it wasn't the best either. And then when you walk on the streets, first of all, you're like the tallest guy there, and you got all these little black bobbleheads. They're walking. But then you'll walk along and you'll see Mama-san. They'll smile at you with about 3 teeth in there and all red because they're eating that beetle
Betel nut.
beetle
yeah.
nut. Yeah, and she'll have a leaf, and she'll be shooing the flies off of the meat, and I think that's what I hate.
Right.
But there's a lot of things that I wish I had a camera on a lot of that stuff.
Yeah. What kind of living conditions did the Vietnamese seem to have?
Well, in town, when I had R&R, they had a hotel. But the hotel, you didn't have a toilet the way we have it now. You probably heard of some of these. There was a hole in the ground. But they had beds there, and otherwise, mainly the going to and from, you had all these shacks along, and they were built out of anything they could find. Metal, not serrated, but corrugated, yeah, and anything they could find. And they were eating anything they can find too, like eggs that are just about ready to hatch.
Yep.
Little chickens in there. Yeah.
Southeast Asian delicacy.
Oh yeah, sure. Just like burying eggs till they're black. Yeah, stuff like that.
Now, were there one of the standard things about Vietnam, or what people say or tossing about it, is that particularly around bases and things like that, there were a lot of ways you could get in trouble. There was prostitution, there was drugs, things like that. Were you aware of any of those things going on around you?
Yes, yes, yes. I mean, if you walk down the street in the Trang, it was like a brothel from one to one. And even out by our complex there, they were call girls or whatever you want to say. And as far as pot goes and anything else, it goes. I didn't take part in that, but because my dad made me quit smoking when I was a kid by getting me sick on a cigar, and that stuck with me.
And then, did they give you a lot of interesting warnings about VD and things like that? Yeah.
Yeah, they sure did. There was one guy in our company, he didn't care because he had it all the time. That's terrible. But, yeah.
Okay. Now, while you're there, what understanding did you have of why you were there? Why are you in Vietnam?
Why I was in Vietnam? Well, we knew it was a war situation, and we knew that we had to fight the enemy. But, but we could not. It was a political war. We could not do this. We could not do that. We couldn't shoot at them until they shot at us. And that is what I would have liked to have done, is have one of these guys over there in Washington say, okay, you made the rules, you come over here and go on point.
Right.
You point for us, you know. And I'm sure they'd change the rules real quick.
Yeah, well, people in the field would often change the rules.
We did.
Yeah.
We had to survive, to survive.
Were you in situations with the convoys or whatever when anybody would open up when normally they weren't supposed to, or did nobody fire weapons while you were going back and forth?
We didn't. They were just shooting at us, and we didn't shoot at them.
Because you wouldn't really have had targets, I guess. Hard to tell where they're shooting from.
Yeah, yeah. Unless you see a flash, and so on.
Okay. Did you have any close calls yourself?
Yeah.
Can you describe one of those?
Okay. They were shooting, and of course we were ducking. And one of my close calls was I was going in a village, and it's off limits quite a bit, and then on limits, off limits, and then on. And then when we were there, we were going through a village, and it was about maybe a 10-foot area that we had, the street, so to speak. And this was a time when I'm kind of prejudiced against everything, the world more or less.
Right.
And there was people walking this way, and we were walking that way, and there was one guy came past, and of course they all have black pajamas, so you don't know what's what. And I was close to him, you know, so close that we bumped shoulders, and it wasn't like, oh, excuse me. No, it's just prejudice. And he did the same thing, so it kind of bumped shoulders, and I took about 5-6 steps, and then I heard a scuffling back of me, and I turned around, and there's a Korean MP and an American MP that grabbed him. The Korean MP grabbed him first, the American MP took him too, and that Korean MP took out his .45 and cracked him over the skull and laid him out, and he had explosives on him. He was going to do himself in and whoever else.
Wow.
Luckily, he didn't have a dead man switch, because when I hit him like that, so that was one that I could have got at. But even on driving that road to see my buddy, I could have got it any time over there too.
All right. Now, you mentioned for the interview that you got up to Da Nang at some point as well, or worked out of there for a while?
Yeah.
Okay, so where in the tour does that happen, or what were you doing up there?
Well, that was just a quick trip up there. That was it. Not a whole lot happening other than being aware of what's going on.
How long did you drive up there?
Yeah.
And how long?
No, I didn't drive up there.
Okay, so you flew there.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
What was the purpose of the trip?
Just to deliver some supplies. That's it. Yeah. But it was, mainly it was back and forth to Nha Trang and Cam Ranh Bay and a couple places around there.
All right. How would you characterize the morale within your unit? What was the attitude of the men there?
Well, some were friends. It's cliquish. And some groups stay together and some of them don't. And but when you get into going after the enemy or getting hit, you're all one.
So if you're out there in the convoy and someone starts shooting at you,
Yeah.
So did the unit perform effectively? I mean, were guys doing their jobs?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And what did you think of the commanders and the senior sergeants you had?
Some were fine, and some were, it's a wonder they survived. You know what I mean? But, yeah.
The ones that were not so good, what kinds of things would they do, or what attitudes would they take?
Well, they'd put you on detail quite a bit and squeal at you, yell at you, and so on. One time when we had the cement slab on that 20-man tent, I was sitting on my bunk, and I was, I don't know what I was doing, reading or something like that, but unknown to me until later, there was this guy came in, drunker than a skunk, and he was waving his rifle, which was a .308, and he had it later on. He had it on semi-automatic, so it was bang, 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 and an MP came in, and he was in there, and they were fighting over that rifle because that MP wanted to take it away. Well, that MP, when I saw him, he was going like this to pull it away from him, pointing it right at himself. And the guy had his finger on the trigger. It didn't go off. I mean, it didn't click. I mean, he didn't do it, anything like that there. So then they got it up like this here between them,
I try not to wave the microphone.
Oh, I'm sorry, between them. And then it went down on a bunk there, and then it went off. Well, it blew a pretty good hole in the cement. but that was about one bunk away from me,
Mm-hmm.
and I didn't care for that.
Now, was that guy who was drunk, was that one of the sergeants or just another man? And
Just another guy.
Okay.
Just, just was tired of the whole works,
Mm-hmm.
And how he got drunk was he went to the dispensary. They had a shack
Mm-hmm.
dispensary there, and they got a 200 proof pure grain alcohol, mixed it with anything and everything they could find, and we're drinking that. I poured actually a little bit out there, and there was a pink flame, or not, I mean a blue flame about 2 feet high.
Mm-hmm.
So it's powerful stuff.
Right. Now, did they have, and you had enlisted men's clubs and things like that, so you could get beer and that kind of thing
No.
on the base, or?
Mm-mm.
Okay.
No, we kind of requisitioned a refrigerator, small refrigerator from one of the ships, requisition,
Mm-hmm.
and we had it in our area, and we had this 3-2 beer,
Mm-hmm.
and we put that in there, and anything else, but we had that in there, and we were drinking. One guy, sent or talked to his dad and had him send a case of fifths of booze.
Wow.
And they came through, which is a rarity,
Mm-hmm.
but they came through, and we partied up pretty good there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So was alcohol use a lot more common than marijuana or anything else at that point?
Actually, if you can get alcohol, fine, but marijuana is more readily available. Yeah. But I tried it once, and yeah, I thought I was going to die. I thought, this is it, Jim.
All right.
I didn't touch it since.
Okay. Now, you, at one point, it was sort of standard to give people an R&R, let them get out of the country for a while, or at least off the base.
Yeah.
What kind of R&R do you have?
Well, they didn't let me get to Hawaii or Bangkok or Philippines or anything like that. They let me go to Nha Trang, which is only, 20 miles away.
Mm-hmm.
And back in there, and there was guards all over of the South Vietnamese guards with guns all over, and I was there for a week, and they had walls around a hotel that we were in. Now, when I say hotel, you think plush.
Mm-hmm.
No, it's far from that. They had walls around it with chinks of glass in there, so instead of barbed wire, they had the glass top.
Mm-hmm.
And it was not a very nice, pleasant time.
Did it feel really any different from being on on your own base?
Not really.
So not really any safer or anything else like that?
No.
Yeah. So not really.
Actually, not. I felt less safe
Mm-hmm.
there, because you just never know if somebody's going to throw a grenade somewhere or an
Mm-hmm.
explosion or whatever. So I was being aware of it.
Now, did other men in your unit get to go to real places, or were there R&Rs normally just at Nha Trang?
Their R&R was normally Nha Trang.
Okay.
I didn't talk to other ones that did do that.
So it seems like basically you were in Vietnam early enough, and especially at Cam Ranh Bay early enough, that a lot of the stuff that built up and developed there over the next couple of years.
Yeah, like Tet.
Yeah. But the fighting wasn't as heavy, but also in terms of the kind of facilities they had there. Because eventually Cam Ranh is a very, very built-up place.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it is now.
Yeah.
They asked me if I wanted to go back, this other Vietnam vet, and I said, no way.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to open up memories again. No way. But I'm sure that it's built up considerably. Now, you probably get cruise ships in there now.
Yeah. I think there's big hotels and all that kind of stuff there.
That's
Yeah.
something.
All right. Now, to think back over the course of, how long did you wind up spending in Vietnam? Did you spend the full year?
Yeah,
Okay.
the longest year of my life. And then after that, I got out. They put me back in the States, but I was just under 4 months. So they gave me an early out.
Now, if you think back to that year that you spent in Vietnam, are there other events or incidents or just memories or impressions that kind of stand out in your mind that you haven't brought into the story here yet.
Well, I'd like to forget a lot of that stuff. And one time I was just on the pulling guard on the on the hill. There was a valley below, and these two Phantom jets came by. I could see them coming, but they went that quiet. Of course, you couldn't hear anything yet at that point. Look, just like two ghosts going by there. And then all of a sudden, the blast of that exhaust gets you, and that's interesting. But I've heard other guys that that had to go into some bad situations. Now, one bad situation is if you go into a village or whatever, and you got these little kids running up, you best be aware, or they had orders to fire on them, because what the VC were doing, they were putting explosives on these kids and say, when you get a few GIs around, pull this. Well, if they pull that, it's too late. They don't know what they're doing. They just said, pull this. So that's what was happening. They were killing our GIs that way.
So did you know people who were killed or injured that way?
I know, I don't know his name, but I know he was hit. I mean, got killed.
Okay.
But in the meantime, if they start running up on you, you got to shoot. Got to take them out. Okay, whether they're innocent or not, you don't know.
No.
So that's what happened there.
Okay. So that kind of impression could certainly stay with you.
Oh, yeah.
And it's just that not knowing part of it.
Right.
That does that.
Yeah.
All right. Now, as you got toward the end of your year, did you do anything differently, or did you have any different assignments from the rest of the time you were there? No. I was in a tanker once. This was not with water, but with gasoline. They had a POL dump of petrol, and filled it up, and I was riding in it. And there was one guy that was driving, but he lit up a cigarette. And he was sticking it right straight out of his mouth. He wasn't on the side or anything. Well, we took off, and he had to slam the brakes on. And that petrol came out of that top. You know, there's a flop top. It wasn't locked or sealed or anything. It came out of that top and splashed right over both of his shoulders like this. Oh.
And if he was, if that ignited, that would have been all she wrote. And there was another time that I was going down the road there, and they had these West Coast mirrors on this deuce and a half, and this one came out, and his mirror hit my mirror, and I closed my eyes. I had glasses on at that time. I closed my eyes and tried to duck, and then when I got up, we were still moving. I got up, all I could see is a red film. All I could see is just red. And I said, hey, I can't see anything. And there I had another guy in there, so he helped put on the brakes, and we stopped it. And I had a chunk of glass up here that took care of that.
Yeah.
But I had, with neuropathy, I can't feel my legs from the knees on down. I can't, and I'm getting spots here that I can't feel. Eventually, the doc said I'll be in the wheelchair status, and I can't feel my fingers at all.
And so that's largely the Agent Orange.
Agent Orange, yeah.
Has the VA at least acknowledged that? So they're helping?
Finally, it took 7 years for them to acknowledge it. 7 years.
Wow.
I started in '08, and finally I got it through. But in '08, right off the bat, the The VA doctor says probably due to Agent Orange, but they were ornery enough and stubborn enough not to do anything for 7 years.
Wow.
But yeah, there's a few other things going on too.
Okay. All right. Now, how did they get you back home then?
We flew.
Okay.
Actually, I took a C-130 out of Cam Ranh Bay. They had PSP, perforated steel plating, and that's what the jets were landing on. That's what the aircraft was. But we took off of that with that on the C-130 and flew to Saigon. And then while we were waiting for a, quote, 707 Golden Jet, that felt a lot better than that ship. Anyway, we were waiting, and there was they put on kind of a show for us, and that was the group, and they mocked the Beatles. They had the Beatles haircut. They were Vietnamese.
Yeah, okay.
And their English accent and their song was just right on the button.
Wow.
And this was live. It wasn't the mouth lip sync or anything. It was really, really interesting. But when we first got over there, the rumor was whatever we came over in, we had to leave.
No.
And I thought, oh crap. But no, we took a jet back.
You flew back.
Yeah.
Because at this point, because the men in your unit, you were leaving at different times. You weren't all,
right.
You went over together, but you weren't leaving together.
Yeah.
They're kind of staggering.
There was quite a few of us that were leaving together. We had a plane load that were leaving together.
But all out of your own unit? Or?
Yeah. Well, not really.
Okay. But a certain chunk of your unit does all at the same time.
Right, right. We got out of there, and we sure felt good getting out of there, I'll tell you that.
And did they announce when you got out of Vietnamese airspace or anything like that?
No.
Okay.
We were just holding our breath a little bit until we did get out of airspace, because the rockets and stuff, you know, you just never know. And when we first got over there, how was that? I can't think of it. I lost my thought.
Okay.
At this age, you lose it mid-sentence.
We're talking about going back. So you're flying back. Where do you land in the States when you get back?
We landed at I think it was San Francisco. Yeah. I think so.
Okay. And then do you get discharged there? Or do they send you someplace else for that, or what happens?
Well, first they put us into a room and they wanted us to re-up.
Okay.
And that didn't appeal to us because I just wanted to get home. And so we said no and took off. And they kept us there for about a day, and then we took off. We flew back, and I was picked up at the Grand Rapids airport with my folks. And I tell you what, I was as brown as those shoes you have on there. You know, if you have 365 days of sunshine almost. But
now, when you were coming back, did you go back in uniform?
well, we went back in khakis.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're flying in the United States in uniform at this point.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
And did anybody act funny toward you, or was it just perfectly normal?
I wish it was perfectly normal, but no, when we first got off the plane, it was colder than all get out over there. Even though it was California, we had our blood thinned out so much that it felt cold. So we were running to the airport, or the complex there, and there was a line of people there, and we had spit showers. We just, you know, I would have liked to stopped and taken care of a few of them, but couldn't do it.
Had you been warned that was going to happen?
No.
Okay.
No.
So that was sort of new to you.
Had no idea.
And had you been aware that there was an anti-war movement going on, or was this kind of a surprise when you encountered it?
It was a surprise, because they didn't really, you know, for the morale of the guys over there, they didn't say that.
Yeah.
But it was very frustrating. Yeah.
Now, once you got past the San Francisco airport, were things more normal? I mean, It'd be people you're riding on the plane with, just
Yeah.
not objector.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, that's not so bad.
All right.
But I'm still getting flashbacks because of PTSD and so
Mm-hmm.
on. They didn't tell you about that either.
They didn't know about it.
They
at
didn't
least
know
not
about
officially.
it. You know, I was thinking, now why am I doing this? Why am I thinking this? Why am I feeling this way? And there's nightmares and flashbacks and so on. And I'll wake up 2 o'clock in the morning. I might get a chance to get another half-hour sleep. And it's just frustrating to know this, but now that they said it's PTSD, at least I can say, okay, it's PTSD.
I mean, do you get any kind of treatment or support for that, or do you just?
Yeah, the only thing as far as PTSD goes is a group support. I went a couple times. I go to 2 different places that has group support for that. One's at the VA in Wyoming. Yeah, and they'll tell you a little bit about it, but mainly it's just a bunch of guys getting together and just talking about whatever they want to talk about. It's an easygoing situation, and the way it is because we're all veterans, because we've all been there. We know that they know how we feel because they feel the same way. When we first got back, you know, am I the only one feeling this way? But now it's kind of opening up, and we discuss problems. Yeah.
Okay. Now, once you did get back, then what did you wind up doing?
Freezing. It was in the middle of June, and I was wearing a ski jacket and long pants and cold, while the other guys were in shorts. You know? But I relaxed for a bit, but yeah, I found a job after that, just for a short time, and then I took the GI Bill, which is quite convenient, and I went to Kendall College. It was actually Kendall School of Design at that point, and then it turned into college after I was out. But I spent 3 years there, and I had the GI Bill in back of me, and so I didn't have to have another job to support.
Right.
So when we first got in class, they said to us, okay, there's going to be a lot of you dropping out before graduation. You know, that was really depressing. But we stuck with it. I got into advertising and illustrating, and so, and now they have a lot more stuff. But I was in that, and there was times I had to stay up all night to complete things. And these people that had to work, they couldn't handle it.
Right.
And there was probably about almost 30 in our class, and I think it was 5 or 7 that ended up graduating from it.
Okay. And did you finish it?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Now, was 3 years the normal length, or
Yes.
did you? Okay.
Yeah.
So did you get a bachelor's degree at the end of that, or?
Well, it's kind of like that. It's a certificate and so on. But I went into an agency right away, and what I didn't learn at Kendall, I learned over there.
Okay. But you were able to get a job with an advertising agency
Oh, yeah.
right away. Okay.
Yeah.
And is that sort of what your career wound up being?
Oh, yes. I'm a graphic designer and in advertising, and I'm still touching in on that. I'm still doing brochures and business cards and corporate images and so on. But I enjoy it.
All right. Now, what kinds of problems did you have adjusting to civilian life again?
Well, when I first got out, my brother wanted me to go to a show, take me to a show. And he said, I'm going to take you to Deer Hunter. And I had no idea what Deer Hunter was about. I said, okay, I'll go to the show with you. So I got in there. When that show ended, I was so uptight that if somebody bumped me in the shoulder, I probably would have let them have it. Because it's hard to get rid of those feelings. And when I think about it, or when I see a jungle picture, I can feel it and smell it. So it's crazy how the mind works. But I'm there, and that's not too good.
Okay.
My buddy asked me when we were out plinking a little bit, how did it feel to take one of them out? And I'd said, "You see that can across the river? Why don't you try shooting that, hitting that?" And he shot it, he hit it. I said, "Well, how'd you feel?" Target. It's exactly how you get over there. All they are is targets. What's dumbfounding is later on they gave us a 223, which is a M16, okay, and we were shooting with that. But when we first got there, we had 308s, which is a 30 caliber instead of a 22 caliber. And if you take one was less than half the size of that 30, and the enemy is shooting an AK, which is a 30 caliber. Now with a 30 caliber, you can cut down a brick or block wall and stuff like that. Not saying with one shot, but and as far as hitting your quote target, one shot, one kill, no problem. But with that 22 that they gave us, it'll take 3 shots or so, and that's why they have a 3-shot burst on there, or fully automatic or semi-automatic. But they have a 3-shot burst because you got to get them a few times before they stop, and they're all hyped up with pot or whatever you call it too, you know, drugs and so on. So it takes quite a bit to stop it, and because you're shooting 3 shots at the enemy, this here factor on we're giving you a smaller round because you can carry more rounds. It doesn't make sense. You know,
Not
that's what they
using 3
wanted.
at once,
Yeah, they're using 3 times as much as one, and they just don't want to. I think that's politics for you.
Well, some of it was that the weapon itself was smaller and lighter, and
True.
so as long as it worked properly, then it could work in a lot of situations you were in. But at least that was the idea. But they had to figure out how to make it work properly.
Yeah,
first.
it didn't work properly at first.
Yeah, because initially it had problems with jamming and things like that. I mean, when you got an M16, did you get a cleaning kit with it?
Yeah.
Okay.
A lot of good it does. I mean, every 10 shots you're going to clean it. Not when you're in a firefight.
Right.
With a M14, no problem. And it's just, yeah, what can I say?
Yeah. So you were kind of fortunate that you had the kind of job that you did,
Yeah.
where your life didn't depend on what you did with that weapon at that time.
Right. Even though you could have got it.
Yeah,
You know.
could have happened.
Yeah.
All right. Now, to look back at the time that you spent in the service, do you think you took anything positive out of it?
Discipline. You know, I turned 21 over there. I should have turned 21 at the hometown and drink myself silly in a bar, right?
Yeah.
But no, I was eating mud, and the only thing positive I took out of there is experience and being able to talk to fellow vets about it. And we're still welcome each other back. You know, if I go someplace and I see that they're a Vietnam vet, whether it be a hat or jacket or belt buckle or whatever it is, I'll welcome them back, because that's the only welcoming they're getting. Yeah.
All right.
I went to the wall, and boy, that's hard to see in Washington, D.C. That's tough. Yeah.
All right.
I'm sure there's a lot of other things that I just can't think of at this point.
That's fine.
But
well, that'll happen, and then after we shut down, you'll just start telling them all to me. But that's just comes with the territory.
Sure.
In the meantime, you've got a good story. You tell it well. So thank you very much for coming in and sharing.
Well, thank you for having me.
All right.